that I'm naming Solar Eclipse is these top 8 shades, but I'm going to introduce a few other shades that you can put in the palette instead of some of the ones that I picked, if you so choose. And we're going to swatch all of these. Make sure you stay till the end because I do have a surprise for you all. Our first color is this beautiful reddish brown called Lords A Leaping from Sydney Grace. Beauties, if you have been living under a rock like me, you did not know that there is a solar eclipse, and I am also super lucky that I actually live on the path of totality. So we ended up being able to see the sun fully covered by the moon earlier today, and it was super cool. I do have a video of it on Instagram if you're curious. It's pretty nice and pigmented, as you can see on my skin, and I love the fact that it's kind of red. My second color, again going across the row, is also from Sydney Grace. It's this beautiful shimmer called Coral Reef. Now this is sort of reddish, sort of corally. It's gorgeous. I would call this a monochrome, but honestly, it does have a very interesting, almost a pinky shift from some angles, which makes it extremely special for me. And I absolutely loved using it in this palette. I did use this in one of my eye looks that I found so cool, and you're gonna see that eye look later in this video. I'm kind of trying to use different variations of coral because I thought it would go amazing with some of the shimmers that I picked. You're gonna see them in a minute. And this one is actually from Glam Shop. I'm gonna try this, but I'm probably gonna butcher it. It's a Pieprzny. Such a beautiful coral shade. I love Glam Shop mattes. You all know this. They're so buttery and pigmented. They're just amazing. They do have fall off, but they are extremely pigmented, as you can see. They're just so fun to use. And I bought this during a sale for like 40 cents or something like that. So you can get amazing deals sometimes. I think the Glam Shop shade that I just showed you is from one of their palettes. If you all don't know, Glam Shop offers a lot of the colors that are in its palettes as singles. So you might actually have the palette it's from. I think the name of the palette is Paprika. Our next shade across is this beautiful multichrome from Divina called Midnight Sun. Every single famous brand that has multichromes like Terra Moons, like Copacetic, like Cliona has a dupe for this shade. So if you don't have this one, don't be dismayed, you might have one of the dupes. If you've seen the video where I dupe Cliona's Deep Sea Treasures palette, because this color was in that palette, the dupe for this, I mention all the different dupes for this color from different brands. If you want to know what they are, you can visit that video. But this is one of those beautiful multichromes, black based multichromes that looks different from different angles. It's even a very nice shade for just a single shadow look because it has very interesting shifts that are kind of unexpected. And beauties, this shade is the epitome of Eclipse to me. If someone tells me what is a one shade that reminds you of Eclipse and maybe should have been named Eclipse, this shade would be it. So it had to be in this palette. When I started this video, it was raining really bad outside. It was supposed to be cloudy all day and have some sporadic thunderstorms. Thankfully, during the totality, we didn't have any rain. Although it was kind of cloudy, you could still see the sun, so that was very lucky for us. This shade is, and now we're on the second row, Foiling from the Glitter Multichromes of Cliona. The reason I picked this shade is because it looks like it has tiny glitter particles in it. Again, we're not talking about anything not eye safe. And it does have a reddish base or a reddish shift. And again, we're thinking about the sun. So gold is totally merited and red is also totally merited. So beautiful. There's also a little bit of a greenish shift from some angles, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. We have the red part, we have the gold part. I love it. This next shade I absolutely love because it, to me, represents the sun. Beauties, look at it. This one is one of the marble ones called Moda na Success, or Trend for Success, from Glam Shop. And it's a marble combination of dark red all the way to gold. And I thought, you know, if we have Eclipse and we have sun, this shade has to be there. And you all know that one of my main concern about these marble shades is when brands put different colors that might be complementary. So when you swatch them together, they end up giving you something brownish or neutralish. And I am not a huge fan of that because what you see in the pan is not going to show up when all the colors mix together. But for this one, this combination looks amazing. As you can see, when they're mixed, they look so beautiful. Now, I used this in my first eye look you're gonna see in a minute, and I actually used more or less a tapping motion to not blend the colors in it too much. So that's another sort of a strategy you can use to get more of a marbled effect on your eye. But when the colors are like this, when they're not complements, and even the blended version looks pretty nice, it doesn't bother me to just blend them. And as far as the shifts are concerned, I see obviously dark red, and then I do see a coral shade, which is gonna go amazing with the other coral shimmers and mattes that I showed you. But I also obviously see gold because there's gold marbles in the pan, and they're gonna show up if you mix them all across the swatch, and it's gonna give it a lot of shimmeriness and tiny glitters everywhere, which is so gorgeous and makes it easy to pair this color with both the gold that I just swatched from Clionadh and a few other shades that I'm going to show you after this. Beauties, before I go to the next shade, I want to mention a few other shades that you could use either for the Clionadh shade that I just showed, or for the Glam Shop shade that I just showed, or even for the other shimmers in the first row in case you don't have them, just to give you more options if you're trying to mimic a similar palette. And the first shade is Bronze Fountain, which is an Earth Vibrant Multichrome from Clionadh, and the second one is Gamma Ray from Terra Moons. These two are not super similar to the two things that I swatched, but I was looking for something that goes red to gold shifts and that maybe also has green in some angles. Now, beauties, I do have a full swatch of all of my Earth Vibrant Multichromes, where I've also swatched this one among that collection. I'll tag that for you all if you're curious. We have a reddish, but not dark red, not burgundy, but just red base, and then a glaze of gold over it that shifts to green from some angles. And it does look like that glaze is comprised of tiny glitter particles. So it doesn't necessarily look super smooth and creamy on the top. It looks more glittery. While Gamma Ray has a darker base, so if I do this where I don't see the glaze at all, the base looks more brown, but then from some angles I see a bronze glaze over it that shifts to green. So Gamma Ray is not exactly a dupe for Bronze Fountain, but these two colors are two options for you if you want to incorporate these two instead of the colors that I used. Now we're getting to the third matte in the palette, and for this one I wanted to use a lighter toned color that also represented the sun. You could use a white if that's your jam, and instead I opted for yellow. This is Buttah from Luxie. This broke, so I repressed it, which is why it's kind of jagged on top. I really like Luxie mattes, and you can't get better price than $3 a shade, so this is just very nice for me. They do have some fall off, but generally with mattes I get fall off, but you can see how pigmented and beautiful and bright this color is. So gorgeous. There are a lot of alternatives, of course. I know ColourPop has a few yellows, Sydney Grace definitely has yellows, but I wanted something so bright and sunny. You know, when children are drawing the sun, this is the color they use in their drawings, and that's what I wanted to say. I don't think this next color that I'm going to present to you all is available anymore. The reason I'm using it is because I'm actually not sure if it is available or not. Also, you all might have it in your collection, but I am going to show you some alternative colors just in case this color is no longer available. This is Daybreak from Terra Moons and Beauties. This is one of my favorite colors from Terra Moons. I hope Terra Moons has a very good reason why this is no longer available, if that's the case. It's one of those super gorgeous, almost iridescent multichromes. This is Ceres, but yellow. And Ceres is one of my other favorite colors from Terra Moons. This is a light yellow shade that kind of goes green in the shade and also has a glaze of coral over it that you can see from some angles. It's a pretty creamy shade and it's such a beautiful shade for the inner corner. Now, if you don't have Daybreak from Terra Moons, there are two alternatives I want to talk about that you could use instead of that color. One is Lemoniada. This is from Glam Shop. This originally existed in their Citronata palette, but as I mentioned, Glam Shop usually releases everything as singles. So I know that every single shade in that palette at some point was available as singles. So this might still be available, or you might already have that palette. This is not the exact same effect, but this would be a good complement also to the other colors in the palette, because again, we're trying to represent the sun. We're looking at a color that could go in the inner corner, that could brighten up the look. Now, this is a different effect for that, but the glitteriness in this color, Beauties, come on. If this doesn't remind you of the sun, I don't know what does. And this one also has a tad bit of a green shift, which could add a little bit of an interesting twist to some of your looks, particularly if you're using the corals or even the gold that had a green shift, the one from Cleona. And then the next option is this one, or frankly, some other iridescent multichromes if you don't have this one, but the one that I picked is Spectrum, which is a series 2 iridescent multichrome from Cleona. This is one of the ones that has a beautiful green shift from some angles and an absolutely gorgeous gold shift that goes into a pink shift, so sort of a corally shift from some other angles. So this very much reminded me of Daybreak in some ways, particularly with that corally shift, and I thought this could be a good replacement for that. Okay, Beauties, that is it for our palette. Now let's go into the looks. I already primed with I Prime in shade 2 from Juvia's. For this eye look, I'm going to start with using Singe Beauty. I have the 7 for the eyes. If I run out, I'm going to complement it with some other brushes from probably another brand. Also, to save time, I'm going to do one look on one eye and another look on the other eye. Let's get started. I'm going to start with this beautiful yellow in my crease. And I'm using E05 from Singe. This look, I'm just going to dive into the Glam Shop color. And I'm going to use it on the outer half of my lid. And I'm just going to start with tapping it because I don't want too much blending. I want to sort of use the lack of blendedness of these colors. And also with my finger, I'm going to just tap it and try to blend it with my finger into the yellow color. And now I'm going to go with E01 from Singe into this reddish brown. I'm just going to draw it under my lower lash line, as close to my lash line as I can. Because Singe doesn't have a brush like this, I'm going to use one of these pencil brushes, one of these super tiny headed brushes. Again, Angelica, if you're watching, please. This is 0127 from a Glam Shop, and I'm going to go into this beautiful red color, red shimmer. And I'm going to use this red shimmer, tapping it lightly to diffuse and blend out my lower lash line. And then I'm going to connect the end to that red color and maybe even bring it up a little bit to create an impression of not exactly a cat eye, but you know, kind of an upward tilting, sort of this edge of the eye. And now with E07, I'm going to go into Daybreak Beauties. I don't know if this color is available. It's likely it is not. Some of you might have it, which is why I'm using it. But you can use another iridescent multichrome or this color, as I mentioned. But this one I'm putting in the inner half and then blending it into that red. I'm now using that first brush with the yellow, and I'm just gonna make sure these edges are blended. And this is my completed look. Once I'm done with the other eye, I'll bring the camera closer and show you both of the looks from close up. But let's jump into the second one for now. Again, I'm trying to not use the same colors in both eyes. So for the other one, I'm going to use this beautiful color, which to me is an ideal color for an eclipse. I'm going to get started by going into my crease with E02 and going into this beautiful red. I'm going to diffuse it a little bit on my hand. If you've realized, I'm trying to be more creative with these looks and not do exactly the same techniques in different videos. And with the same exact brush, I'm going to look up and I'm going to brush this under my lower lash line. And another thing you can do is to use a little bit of the yellow to even blending it out, but I don't want this eye look to be yellow, but that's an option for you. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this pigment glue. This is from the Lilac brand, which is a sister brand to Crash Cosmetics, the Spanish brand. And I'm using this across my lid. I'm now going to go with my finger in the color. I'm literally going to cover that area with this shade. So this is just going all across the lid. And this is an interesting color because if you put more of it, it's going to be more dark and it's going to have a more obvious shift, which is the case with any black-based multichrome, which this is an example of. If you want to open up the look, you can go into Daybreak or an iridescent multichrome or a lighter toned color. But I actually want it to be a little bit more gothy, so I'm actually going to go into this red and we're going to go in the inner corner. Now this is not something I would have normally done, but I'm excited to be doing it. So I'm doing the inner corner, I'm blending it into the black, and I'm bringing it down. Love it. And I'm going to go back with that first brush that I used with the red that went into my crease, and I'm just going to diffuse if there are any edges between this black multichrome and the red color. You can also take a completely clean brush like the E06 and blend this edge also, just so it goes completely into my skin. Okay, beauties, the eye looks are complete. Just a reminder that I used this red color all across my lower lash line. And yes, I have all of these different colors swatched and sort of tapping down and diffusing on my hand before I use them on my lids. So we have, and I apologize if you can hear the car noise. It's the night before the eclipse, so the whole universe has come to Austin. So I like to do a lighter toned look and a deeper toned look, and that's what we have. And with both of these eye looks, you can do nude lip, and that's what I tried. I kind of forgot that I tried Sugar Cookie from Too Faced, and it seems like I kind of forgot this is a little bit pink, which is fine. I could have done more nude, like Manila from Ofra. Maybe that would have been better. Now let me bring the camera closer and show you both looks from close up. The shift of that black multichrome Midnight Sun is not visible in this lighting, so I took a shot in low lighting and hopefully you can see the red shift in this light. Now it's time for the big surprise! Oh, there it is. It's much darker than the camera shows because the camera is using an angle that is actually letting a lot more light in. Thank you, beauties. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and watched it this long, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you like these kinds of videos, write to me what kind of inspiration you want me to use for my next palette. I hope you have an amazing day, and until next time, bye.